Assalamu alaikum everyone. Hope you all are doing well. This is me, Aisha Zahid, your science teacher, and I welcome you all in today's lecture where we will be going to discuss about the chapter reproduction in plants. As we have completed this chapter, so this video will be all about the revision of all the basic concepts regarding this chapter, all the terminologies, the processes, and everything, right? So let's get started. You guys have to open your page number 32. So, reproduction in plants. First of all, what basically reproduction is? Reproduction is basically a process in which fertilization or fusion take place between the male and the female gametes, and in the result we get new offsprings, right? So we'll be discussing about the terms like what fertilization is, what is the meaning of fusion, what are male and female gametes, and everything. So, first of all, we have to talk about the flower, right? So, first of all, let's discuss the structure of a flower. So, it's figure 3.5, right? So, the structure of a flower consists of stigma, style, and ovary. Then we have anther and filaments. Then we have the colored part like the petals, right? Stigma, style, and ovary all comprises known as carpel, which is a female reproductive part. Female reproductive part of a flower is known as carpel, which consists of stigma, style, and ovary, while male reproductive part of a flower is known as stamen, which consists of anther and filament. Right? So, basically, what pollination is? Pollination is a transfer of anther to the stigma. ठीक है? Anther is what? Anther is a male part and stigma is a female part. So transferring of anther to stigma is known as pollination. Pollination are very much important for sexual reproduction, right? So, pollination is the first step in the sexual reproduction. There are two types of pollination. One is self pollination and other is cross pollination. Self pollination is the pollination in which the anther of a plant falls on the stigma of the same plant. ठीक है? There will be the there will be one plant whose anther will be fall on the stigma. So self pollination is a basic type of pollination which involves only one flower plant. Okay, it's a very quick type of pollination, no struggle, no need of pollinators and everything. Cross pollination is a type of pollination in which an anther of a plant transfers to the stigma of an other plant of a same kind, right? For example, like uh, there are two plants of the same kind, tulip plant or rose plant and everything. So like for example tulip plant, so tulip plant's anther will be transferred to the tulip plant stigma of a different plant, right? It is a complex type of pollination, and it's little bit of like tricky because of the involvement of many factors, and in result we get a variety of unique offsprings. In the self pollination there is no variety in the offsprings, but in the cross pollination we got different varieties. So now depends upon the cross pollination, we have different agents, like we have different organism that helps to carry the anther to the stigma for the pollination. So they are known as pollinators. Pollinators are the substances, are the organisms that carries anther and transfers to the stigma of another flower for like to support pollination. So there are many pollinators. Some of them are animals, insects, and humans, wind, water. If we talk about animal as a pollinator, so Animals are basically attracted to the color and the fragrance of a flower, and they also collect a nectar of a flower. Nectar is basically a juicy substance of a flower, so usually they collect that nectar, and then when they goes to the plant to collect the nectar, so what happens is pollen grains falls on the animal, and then that animal transfers that fallen pollen grains to the stigma of an other plant just for the sake of collecting the nectar, right? Then we have insect as a pollinator. Insect pollinators include bees, honeybees, bumblebees, wasps, ants, flies, and all. What basically happens is, insect pollinators visits the plants to collect the nectar and accidentally picks up the pollen grains. Okay. Wind as a pollinator. So most of the conifers are wind pollinated plants, and all the pollen grains and anther that are pollinated through wind are very light weighted. Okay. uh, and the wind pollinated plants produce large quantities of light weighted and dry pollen in their small flowers. Okay, that can be easily carried through wind. Then we have water as a pollinator. Water pollen grains can also float on the water surfaces until these contact the flowers of the same species. Water pollination occurs only in the water, for example, in the hydrilla plant and in the water hyacinths. Okay. Uh, Cross pollinated plants includes banana, maize, cucumber, pumpkin, melon, broccoli, tomato, radish, beans, cabbage, cauliflowers, spinach, pepper, onion, corns, watermelons. These all are the examples of cross pollinated plants. Then we have discussed the terminologies regarding sexual and asexual reproduction. First of all, what is reproduction? So reproduction is a process through which we got new offspring. So there are two types of reproduction: sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. The basic difference between these two modes of reproduction is the occurrence of fertilization. Now, what basically fertilization is: when an anther transfers to the stigma, that anther start traveling into the style and then into the ovary. When reaching to the ovary, what happens is anther and ovary get fused, right? Anther and ovary get fused and form a complex structure known as zygote. That formation of zygote is known as fertilization, right? Okay. So in asexual reproduction, there is no fusion and no fertilization between the male and the female gametes take place. Now, what basically gamete is? Gamete is a developed and a matured cell, whether it's male cell, whether it's female cell. So in asexual reproduction, there is no fusion and no fertilization of male and female gametes take place, while there is no need of seed as well in the asexual reproduction. And what other thing is that there all the offsprings of asexual reproduction will be genetically identical to the parent cells, right? If we talk about the mode, when there is no fertilization take place, when there is no need of seeds, so how the plants are growing? So plants are growing through the process of vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation is a type of asexual reproduction in which new plants are produced by the help of root, stems, leaves, and buds or branches. Okay. So there are different types of vegetative propagation. One is cutting, then layering, then fragmentation, then spore formation. Cutting is a process in which stem of a plant is like cutted and then moistened into the soil to produce new plants. For example, rose plant is example of cutting. ठीक है. Layering, like sometimes you have might observe that stems of the plants are so much heavy weighted that they are bended down types. So what happens is that bended part of a flower of a plant are covered with the soil, and then they provide the water, and the new plant grows there. Fragmentation is a type of reproduction in which, like, a small part of a plant, a flower, a small part of a flower is uh, extracted and is used in the production of a new plant. For example, in the sugar canes, so sugar canes have small pieces, small fragments, so that one fragment is used to develop a new plant. Then spore formation, special spore bearing organs are present in some plants, especially in the fungi and the algae. These spores are responsible for the formation and developing a new plant. Then we have sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction involves the fertilization between the male and the female gametes, and they require seed for the formation of new plants. And due to sexual reproduction, we got fruits and the seeds as a result of fertilization. Now, what basically fertilization is a next step to pollination. First of all, anther transfers to the stigma. Then what happens is, that anther start traveling to the style, and then that get fused in the ovary and forms a zygote, and then the process of fusion take place. Okay. As a result of fertilization, the ovary get converted into fruit, and the ovule converted into seed. ठीक है. The moment the ovary is becoming a fruit, the petals and the sepals and the other part of the plant, like stamen, falls off from the plant, and fruit is formed, and inside that food, in seed is formed through ovules. ठीक है. And this formation take place as a result of zygote. What zygote was a form, like, fusion of anther and the ovary, right? So then we have the difference between sexual and asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction involves only one parent plant. There is no need of seed. There, it mostly occur in the lower plants, and reproductive parts are not present. There is no need of anther, style, ovary, stigma, right? Fertilization do not take place, and the characteristics of only one parents are inherited. Like, these plants are genetically identical to their parents. Sexual reproduction involves both male and female parents. It mostly occurs in the higher plants, and fully developed reproductive organs like stigma, style, ovary, anther are involved. And fertilization gives rises to the zygote. Due to the fertilization, zygote occurs, like fusion of male and female, a complex structure, and it requires both characteristics of male and female, and seeds are needed in this type of reproduction for the development of a new plant. This was all about our chapter. If you are having any question and any query regarding this topic, regarding this chapter, any terminology, uh, any part of a plant you are getting confused with, or any concept, you are always welcome to come and ask in any time, right? So what you guys have to do, you have to read this chapter thoroughly, so that we can um, fulfill our review test and test exercises in the book in the upcoming class, right? So best of luck everyone for your upcoming final exams, and best of luck, and thank you for your listenings. Allah Hafiz.